President Trump's historic second term has officially begun. His political comeback marked by a series of executive orders, some happening just a short time ago. We have team coverage tonight covering all angles of his policies, from immigration to the January 6 pardons. But we begin with Kristine Johnson live from Washington on a very busy night there. Kristine.
Yes, Dick, before the first day of his second term ended, President Donald Trump kept his promise that he was going to take action. And true to his word, he certainly did that. But in addition to the many executive orders that he signed today, was also the history-making pomp and circumstance of Inauguration Day. Inaugural balls, the glitz and the glamour. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump gracing the dance floor.
Will soon be over.
Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife Usha also savoring the moment after a long day of ceremonies. Earlier Monday evening, the inaugural parade staged inside the Capital One Arena due to the frigid cold. President Trump greeted with applause, entertainers, and marching bands, as well as the NYPD Emerald Society pipes and drums.
So now the work begins. We won, but now the work begins.
Mr. Trump standing alongside family members of the Israeli hostage victims, all in yellow scarves to signify the call for their return.
We have to bring them home.
The nation's 47th president sworn in inside the Capitol Rotunda Monday afternoon with nearly 800 people squeezed in. Timothy Cardinal Dolan giving the invocation prayer.
Please, God, bless America. Please, mend her every flaw.
Chief Justice John Roberts administering the oath as he did 8 years ago. J.D. Vance sworn in by Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, becoming the third youngest vice president ever.
I, James David Vance, do solemnly swear.
And with every living former president looking on, President Trump condemned the past 4 years and declared this the start of the nation's golden age.
America's decline is over. The golden age of America begins right now.
And as all of this was going on, Marco Rubio was confirmed as Secretary of State, and other more controversial picks to be on the lookout for: Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense, and also Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence, those still to be determined, Dick.
Kristine, you and I were both down there for the first inaugural for Trump. What's the contrast between then and now?
Well, first off, I think it's colder this time around, Dick, for sure. It was cold when we were down here, but it's a lot colder this time around. But in all seriousness, you know, when he was first elected president, I think that everyone, it's safe to say, the nation was shocked that he won the Electoral College. And he had to find his footing, and he also had to gain more support within the Republican Party. During his second term, I feel as though that he is no rookie anymore. You know, he feels as though that he is emboldened. He even said today that he has learned a lot over the past 8 years in his inauguration address. And for now, Dick, the party stands united.
A very different world 8 years later. Kristine, come in out of the cold. Thank you for your reporting from Washington. We'll see you back here soon. Thanks again. In an extraordinary move tonight, President Trump issued sweeping pardons for most of the January 6 felons. The president signed executive action in the Oval Office.
What they've done to these people is outrageous. There's rarely been anything like it in history, in the history of our country.
President Trump pulled out his pen and granted full pardons to more than 1,500 people, nearly all of those convicted or accused of storming the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Stuart Rhodes, leader of the Oath Keepers, who was sentenced to 18 years in prison, will have his sentence commuted, along with 13 others. In taking action late Monday night, the president repeated claims that have not been proven.
There were outside agitators involved. And obviously the FBI was involved.
140 officers were injured that day. New Jersey native and Capitol Police officer Brian Sicknick suffered a stroke and died after he was sprayed with a chemical substance outside the Capitol. The president was asked if people who assaulted police officers should be pardoned.
Well, I will say this. They've been in jail for a long time already.
I have been betrayed by my country, and I've been betrayed by those that supported Donald Trump. Tonight, 6 individuals who assaulted me as I did my job on January 6th, as did hundreds of other law enforcement officers, will now walk free.
We spoke to constitutional law professor James Sample ahead of Monday's executive action.
And to be clear, constitutionally speaking, the president's pardon power is unrestricted and essentially unreviewable.
The White House says the order requires the Bureau of Prisons to take immediate action.
Release those prisoners!
Supporters of the January 6 defendants rallied outside the jail in D.C. tonight, and at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, there was elation as supporters of at least one January 6 defendant waited for his release.
I'm overjoyed that we have a president who is going to right some of the wrongs that have been committed over the last years in this country.
And before leaving office, President Biden preemptively pardoned 5 members of his family, Dr. Anthony Fauci, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, and General Mark Milley. Today, President Trump signed some 200 executive orders, including declaring a national emergency at the southern border, rolling back protections for transgender people, ending diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in the federal government, and reinstating service members who refuse to get the COVID vaccine, along with halting the ban on TikTok for 75 days. Trump's executive order on immigration includes an attempt to end birthright citizenship. And as Jennifer Bisram reports, many migrants in our area are worried about what comes next.
I just renew my DACA. I'll have protection for the next 2 years, but the future is very uncertain.
Eric Cruz is a father and DACA recipient who works with the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice. He left Mexico with his family when he was just 8.
We're just criminalizing people. We're just attacking communities and want to put the blame on immigrant communities.
He, like many asylum seekers, are now worried they may be detained and deported.
I will declare a national emergency at our southern border.
President Trump swiftly issuing executive orders on immigration, including ending the birthright citizenship program and ordering mass deportations, which CBS News has learned could happen as early as Tuesday in large cities.
All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came.
It comes as the NYPD has seen a spike in crimes committed by migrant gangs in 2024. CBS News New York highlighting safety concerns back in November.
That's a public safety issue. A nation with open borders is not a sovereign nation. So the open borders we are against.
But advocates say there are many law-abiding migrants and recommend they talk with an immigration attorney.
If ICE were to show up to your door, you should not open up your door. You should ask to see if they have a judicial warrant, one signed by a judge.
I think it's really important for people to have copies of their documents, and it's really important for them to put their house in order, per se. If they have kids, they should make sure that there's a plan to what happens if, for example, a parent gets detained or deported.
And I reached out to Immigration and Customs Enforcement officials here in New York several times to see if there's any planned action here. It is still unclear. Jennifer Bisram, CBS News, New York.
The American Civil Liberties Union has now sued the Trump administration over its executive order on birthright citizenship. And New York Attorney General Tish James says the state is prepared to fight back to uphold the integrity of the Constitution. The transgender community and civil rights advocates are reacting to the president's rollback on DEI and protections for trans people. Jenna DeAngelis spoke with them tonight.
I'm very happily and very proudly non-binary.
Sade Framness uses social media to express their gender identity.
I honestly can't imagine my life without, because it did save my life when I was younger.
It's been a place where they felt represented. But on Monday, the first video Framness saw on their feed was this order from President Donald Trump.
There are only 2 genders, male and female.
There are so many issues going on in this world right now that are so much more important than the self-identification of human beings in the United States.
Founder of Trans New York, Dr. Jennifer Hurley, a transgender woman, worries about the impact.
This is detrimental to children. You're going to see a lot of discrimination rise. It's already risen, and more hate. And it's really dangerous.
The order ends the X-gender option on federal paperwork and ensures federal funds will not be used to promote gender ideology. Among those applauding Trump, Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman, who banned transgender athletes from competing in girls' sports at county facilities.
It was stupid and dangerous for biological males to play with females in organized sports.
The president also signed an executive order ending diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in the federal government, viewed by opponents as reverse discrimination.
We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based.
It is such an erroneous misuse given the type of people that he has nominated who actually are not merit-based appointees.
Nothing more than divisive attempts to marginalize entire communities and roll back decades of progress.
While there are many protections here in New York, civil rights advocates we spoke with worry about the wider impact and expect this to be challenged in court. Jenna DeAngelis, CBS News, New York.
Mayor Adams is facing some backlash for suddenly canceling his appearance at several Martin Luther King Day events to go to Washington. The mayor posed for photos at the inauguration after getting a last-minute invite to attend. Some are questioning whether it was self-interest on the part of the mayor, who is set to go on trial in April on corruption charges.
Eric Adams today decided to cancel on New Yorkers because Donald Trump beckoned for him to come down. He is making it very clear. What Eric cares more about is making sure that he does not go to jail.
The mayor called the inauguration a sacred American tradition, writing on social media, "On MLK Day, like Reverend Dr. King said, we must put partisan politics aside to do what's best for our country." And for a look back at the day's events in Washington, you can find a complete wrap-up on CBSNewYork.com.